Awesome. It's 2:30. It's time. It's the midweek, I would say, of the mid-month. This is supposed to be, let's say, our, let's say, happy hour for the design community. There's so many things happening around us. We're trying to find some time where we can literally get a drink, which suits you, and just enjoy a little bit about industrial design thinking. And I would say more about what happens around it or how we try to look at it via different perspectives. I think most of you might be knowing who I am. I'm still Jeevak. It's 2 months now that I have been sporting a beard, so it's still me. I think my accent can tell you that it's still Jeevak over here as such. For those of you who might be new, I work with Sundberg-Ferar. We are the second longest standing design studio in the nation. I'm just so grateful to be with the studio. And I'm a designer. I just enjoy trying to think and understand about industrial design thinking as a lot. We are here in Detroit and we are still working. So just FYI, but we will not typically talk about the core kind of and services as such. We're talking about the fundamental tenets of design, industrial design, and the things around it. As we are going, we will try to send you a couple of elements through the chat. If I'm trying to, let's say, invoke some story or refer to something somebody somewhere else, I think Lanea would be sending us those links to the chats too. So try to make sure you look at them. So trying to just look at these sessions, why are we doing this? Just to make sure we add some levity to what we are doing. That's the predominant purpose. And through it, we will try to make sure there would be a little bit inspiration, a little bit motivation, a little bit education also. And of course, fun for everybody too. So the thing is, we have to understand the context. It is a pandemic out there. We know, everybody knows, I think, from all other expert, I would say, channels, what things are. But trying to look at it means just life itself is so beautiful. And each and every day literally is a gift. We always read about that quote, but now since people, you and me, and looking around, it's every day is a gift for us. And it depends on how we are going to make the maximum use of it, what we always wanted to do. We always had the excuse of no time. Now actually we have time. So it all depends on one element. What's your ambition? What's your objective? What's your aspiration of you want to do in this time as such? Because today is a gift. Just today itself is a gift. And I think I'm trying to paraphrase what Neil deGrasse Tyson said. Today is a gift. I'm adding that to him, because yesterday was always an inaccessible past, and we are forever transitioning right now with the today's gift to the unknown future. This will keep on happening. That's the cycle, that's the chain. And as we go one step ahead, we try to make sure we go and derive those things and use it meaningfully as we go forward, I would say, in our lives. So the entire plan or the format of this is a little bit free flowing. We're trying to make sure we listen to your questions, and some of you have sent me or thrown some good questions at me. So I will try to get some of them. There is still a couple of sections. Like last time I did the top 10 things. People said just do that with something else. So there'll be a couple of those things, and a couple of, I think I got some googly questions too, some odd curveballs. So I will try to answer them. One of the questions was, I was born in India. I was working there for 7 years with Tata Motors Group. Eventually, I came here to Detroit 19 years ago. And people said, what were your first kind of an experiences as such? What really, I would say, surprised you? Not just culture shock, but what was the main thing and what did you learn from them? And I have literally plenty of stories to share. I think some of you might have heard this story, but I will tell the story literally on the first day of my job. I came here to Detroit, was employed with one of the big three, literally down the road from over here. It was the first day. You get, as a young immigrant from India, fresh off the boat, you get invited to one of the biggest design studios in the world. I was happy, means literally, in a way, I made it. So I come there. There is another small story at the desk, at the reception desk. We can hold that for future. But in the morning, I went to the HR person, signed all the papers. Everything was good. 2-3 hours. I don't know what I signed. I still don't remember. I signed 24 papers. Hopefully, it was all for good. Then the HR person, very good, loving person, he said, okay, now I'm really busy. I will hand you over to your supervisor. He's on the second floor. I said, okay. So he takes me around, and it was like a small kid in the wonderland. Like everything was just amazing, huge clay models and amazing state-of-the-art equipment everywhere. I go to, let's say, my space, my future space. And as we're going through, I can see there on the right, my future boss, supervisor, his name is Tom. he was there talking with somebody. So this HR guy came and said, "Hey, I'm just going to hand you this over to this guy over to you, Tom. I have to go back." And Tom was in a meeting, right? I could see that. He said very nicely, "Jeevak, I will just uh, take care of this conversation over here. Can you give me some time?" I said, "Absolutely." And here is what we said. He said, "Just go there, grab a Joe, and meet me in that room." I will repeat again. He said, this is 18, 19 years ago. He said, "Jeevak, go grab Joe and meet me in that conference room." I thought I knew English. I still think I know English. But he said, "Grab a Joe." Now, I will literally let you know, of all the things in the world, nobody taught me that a coffee cup is called a cup of Joe. How it comes. So he literally in his world told me just to go there, grab a Joe, and he will be there in 5 minutes. With me, I have 3 degrees, 2 masters, and all those things. I thought, okay, he asked me to go over there, grab Joe, and get him in the conference room. My first assignment in my life from my boss in the US, I said, okay, that's easy. I just went over there to that area of that section. As such, just stood there and just asked question, who is Joe here? Can you imagine the element? There were people around it. First of all, everything is completely alien to them. Who is this guy? Who is this Indian guy? I was speaking more faster at that time. My accent was more thicker at that time. I was obviously not wearing some nice threads like this. It was literally what one would wear fresh off the boat. And I just stood there like, that's my first assignment. Who is Joe here? Everybody was blank, like, who is this guy? How did you get into the secure studio? But they saw the badge and all those things. One amazingly young, beautiful girl, her name is Amanda. She said, like, are you sure Tom wants to have Joe? I said, yeah. He told me to get Joe. I said, but Joe and Tom, they are at loggerheads with each other. Are you sure? I said, I don't know. He just said, get Joe. Okay. They told me where to go. I just kept on walking. And over there, a nice glass kind of a cubicle out there. The name was there, Joe, and it was some kind of a Polish name. I said, I just went inside. I did not knock, nothing. And I said, Joe, Tom wants to meet you. It was now literally the blank thing from Joe to just look at me like, first of all, who am I? Who are you? And why is Joe calling me? And he had nothing. He was just looking at me like a blank person. I thought, maybe he must be immigrant like me. His English is... So I said, Tom wants to meet you. He said, who Tom? I said, Tom. I said, when? I said, right now. And he's looking at his laptop and there is no meeting here. He's already furious. He's a short, stubby guy. I think he was a wrestler or something. I was not afraid. I would have lifted him and taken him to Tom, my first boss, my first order. I can do that assignment pretty easily. But he saw, I did not have to do that, thank God. But he saw my, let's say, consistency in standing there stubbornly. I said, Joe, Tom wants you. And he literally shut down his laptop and just, he was furious like a bulldog. And he started walking with me all the way down towards that end. And just look now from the perspective of Tom. He's looking at us, this new digital asset that he got from India. And now somebody else, nobody else than Joe, is grabbing me and holding me. And maybe he was already trying to use me on his projects. And he saw us going into that conference room. And now Tom, for no reason unbeknownst to him, he's angry. Like, what is that guy doing with his guy? And he comes stomping in that conference room. And both literally are face to face each other, buckle to buckle, literally breathing down each other's breaths. Hopefully, or not hopefully, COVID was not there at that time. They were so close to each other, 6 inches or 6 millimeters. And here is now Tom shouting at him, literally shouting like, why are you here? He said, you called me here. He said, I did not call you here. Your guy dragged me here. And they're pointing things at me. And I swear you, I was literally in the back of the room. I had done my job. He wanted Joe. Here is Joe. I was in the back, literally mixing coffee and the creamer in the coffee as such. And they were both looking at me really furious. And Tom said, when did I tell you to go and grab Joe? I said, you told me to grab a Joe. And then literally both of them understood the slang, the vocabulary, the colloquial elements of what he meant and what I took. And then they both just started laughing as those tweet or you write those things about rolling on the floors. They literally were doing that. I was completely flabbergasted. Like, guys, I'm happy you are laughing, but at least tell me what's happening. Means it is hilarious. At that time, it was not hilarious. they both are great friends. Actually, everybody was talking about this. Means they were not great friends. They are still okay friends with each other. But that was the day when both were really furious and then really enjoying and just talking about it. So everything ended really well. But the entire thing is, the context is, was my English less or more? That's not the point. The element is about the power of the context. The context typically overrides the meaning of things within it. So when we design a product or a system or a service, it's not just looking at that element in isolation. You have to look at in the context of how the meaning is already pegged around in that kind of an I would say situation too, and those things changes for everybody. And it's not just, it just happened with me, and since then, believe me, I have been now really cognizant, not just because I'm a designer, but just because I'm a designer. Now it goes into questions and questions and question like, what do you really mean by that? Can you better explain me it a little bit more? Means the questions like any good design researcher should ask for every focus group. I started asking questions just like that, trying to really understand, what do you mean? What is the angle? How are you looking at things? How would somebody else look at those things? It helped me actually understand the history, or I'm trying to understand, beginning to understand the history of the American culture and the traditions more and more and more. But things like that just tell us how easy it is to miss the real crux of the element, even though, let's say, both people are completely fluent in the modes of communication. And this was a normal everyday task. It was not even technical. It was not life threatening or something, but things like this get very easily overshadowed or over misobserved, that we have to be really cognizant of and try to understand, okay, what are things happening in those particular areas. So that's what typically comes. It's not just me who's going to, who I just happened to find about this, but when I learned, actually Professor Stanley Milgram in 1960s and 61 did some fantastic experiments about this element. About, we always think we understand who we are or our principles, but more than often it is the meaning of the context. The situation overrides the meaning of who you are. You are a completely different person, even though who you are when you are in your basement doing a, let's say, webinar like this, or when you are, let's say, as a jury, or when a policeman, let's say, halts you on the side, or if you are in a wedding ceremony or a funeral ceremony, everybody reacts to the situation, and the same thing happens with you and your product. So all comes down to understanding, what do people really need or expect from the product. And when I say product, not necessarily a physical element. It can be an utensil, it can be an equipment, it can be an implement, it can be an interface, it can be all those things. So that's what at least I could learn from it. But the other element is not just understanding the end user, right? Means here I'm trying to get some stage props over here. We always think we have to understand what the end user wants, right? And that's what everything comes in. This is the end user. And that's really good. We always have to make sure we understand what they stand for, what is the adoption propensity of your product, of all the things as such. But when we say end user research, it is not just one user. It has to be a line of stakeholders, right? All the in-between users, maybe the contractor who has to go, he has a tool of building, he has to go and install that incinerator or the kitchen cabinets in your house. He's also the user of the system, right? Or it can be the person at Home Depot, the single person, the buyer, the God Almighty at Home Depot or Lowe's or Menards, who is, let's say, whom you are selling your product. It might be a vacuum cleaner, or it might be a lawnmower. What are his or her needs? What are their attributes that they want for their brand as such? But more than often is always the upper management of your company too, right? The upper management has a little bit different tool. I think everybody has a gun over here. I don't know why. Even the society use also has a weapon in there. I love Legos, and I stole some of the figurines from my little one. But the thing is, it's not just understanding what the end user wants. He or she will always want all the features for free. But you have to understand how it is a win-win-win situation within all the silos, not just the commercial silos, but also the in-between silos of form and function. So form and emotion comes pretty strongly. We can talk about that, or maybe not. We all know about aesthetics, I would say, but understanding about the world of engineering, the feasibility, the viability, all those things come together. So the main thing is, just as let's say we heard the story about the Joe, right? The coffee Joe as such, a simple thing can go askew pretty strongly. We have to understand the mental models of all our end users. what is value for them, how do they perceive value, what is their meaning for them, how much are they, let's say, going to afford to spend on it. And the thing is trying to understand what really makes it, right? What is the truth for every person? It's very difficult to go to the truth. You cannot just ask about it. You have to extract it. And truths are different. Means just truth itself is a completely different element, right? Means coming back to the fundamental, I would say, elements of truth. There can be 3, 4 elements of truth. One is the personal truth. That's where it depends on what you believe or what faith you have, and everybody can define that truth as they want. The second ones would be the political truth as such. Means every country can define, let's say, the age for smoking or the age for driving, and there can be something that can be designed as collectively. Is this not a truth? Is 17 years okay or 18? We can always debate, but we all come to consensus as such. The third one will be the societal truth. There are many examples like that. If there are any kids below 8 years in your room right now, close their ears at least. I don't want to be that guy for them. Hopefully everybody is adult over here. Societal truth would be Santa Claus. It's a great example. We all know that it's me who places all those gifts and a cup of coffee, not coffee, sorry, a cup of milk and cookies over there on the Christmas Eve. But the kids don't do that. And we as society, we are guarding that secret, literally guarding a secret. I love the context. I am Santa Claus. Little bit nice white now coming out too for my kids, and they just love that. My elder kid now knows, but we both are Santa Claus for my little daughter as such. That's still the societal truth. There's so many elements like that. But the last one is the objective truth. So we have to rightly find out what are the objective truths of each and every demographics, the persona that we are going to do, the tribes that we are going to go and solve the problems with, how to make sure we go and stand in their shoes rather than trying to think from a designer's perspective. Designer is never the user. You have to understand and see how those elements would come into. And then we can come into the world of design, right? Means industrial design, I think most of us are cognizant about what it is. I would hope so. Means we are not going to define it. Definition of something becomes not completely pragmatic as such. But when I say industrial design, it is not just, I would say, a design of your product. It is a configuration of the product systems, right? It is not just the materials, the construction, the framework. It is the elements of how the trinity things come in. The hardware, the product itself, the tactile element where everything has to be squeezed in, the digital twin of it, or the digital interface of it, or what we do on the dashboard back behind as a company, and how you make use of it. And the third part is the serviceization of it. So all three together make your product, I would say, successful. And we can define the success levels for every product, or what you mean by success for your company in your category. But the major configuration of these three trinity becomes what design would be. But the element is, more often people try to do the reduction, like let's try to take out everything and go to that element. It's good to understand, it's good to, let's say, analyze things, but eventually we have to put it together, like synthesize it together. But sometimes people try to look at them at isolation, only one element. It just cannot happen, right? You cannot keep on reducing everything. You have to take a step back, look at the landscape first, and then think about the machine and the uses and the use cases, rather than looking at to solve a small element here, a small element there. Means Charles and Ray Eames always talked about details. I completely respect that. We all respect that. But the element is, before you go to the world of details, you have to make sure you look at the entire framework, the scaffolding first. The main architectural elements have to be in place, and then details, because pretty soon you might be just caught up in a small world of details and keep on nipping at it. It's good, but in that isolation. But design cannot be successful in isolation. You have to make sure you understand the entire ecosystem around it as such. So that's where I think it will all come down into what the design would be, right? I mean, Steve Jobs always, I think Steve's job is attributed to this. Design is not just how it looks, it is how it works. Absolutely true. But I think we have to go a little bit more deeper than that. It is not as it looks, it is how it works. It is also how it is crafted. It is also how it is made. The crafting part comes from the world of design, of how you and the designers and the strategists put and arrange and sequence things need to be done, and how it is made. That's the main part of it. The engineering part of it means, as a studio, we blend in the design and engineering together, because how it is made eventually puts a shadow of the material cost or the sourcing cost or the sustainability kind of a shadow on it. Everything happens over there. So it is not just what the end user needs, and we have to make sure we understand him and her, and now more the society also, but understanding what the company who is making it also wants to do it, because it all depends on the aspirations too, right? Not everybody, I'm glad, not everybody wants to be Amazon or Tesla. Every company has their own aspirations, their objectives, their goals as such, and then they always have their own starting point. How to understand the basics starting point and the desired state, and then try to use all the techniques and tools that we have learned in the design schools to make use of it as such. So it's framework over details other than anything else. And then that's when it comes back to the good design part of it, right? Good design is good business, because as long as it is good, it doesn't need to have to be persuasive. The product itself, and I'm calling the product or the object itself, can be expressing itself about problems it will solve in the market. And if you have done your background, your homework, your design research, both qualitative and quantitatively as such, and then you can bring it back over there and try to make sure you take away all the distractions in your product itself, then the product can stand on its own. And then it can be unique and compelling and meaningful and beautiful too. I mean, beauty is a part of the entire packaging as such. So it's, the element is that product just has to be complete, right? Means you cannot leave anything for interpretation, for people to understand, or a chance to anticipate something else, a chance to think about something else. So as long as you are trying to understand what it stands for and completely design it with all the levels of details, then you stand a pretty good chance or increase the likelihood of success in the product world. There can never be a guarantee. If any design studio comes to you and say, like, we can guarantee you follow this 4 different process, I would I will take some time to even just process that thought as such. But you try to make sure you do the maximum amount of robust design, not just thinking like these are the, not to imagine problems that people will have, but you're trying to see and anticipate and think about the problems they would have. It's not just taking the data out, right? It's not data plus design is equal to success. It's data plus design plus the intuition, the imagination, the elements that we all went to school to understand what is design and how you connect things with each other. That connection part of it, I think, is one of the amazing place that would happen as a designer in his life, either through in the school or in the college, or maybe right now as you are, let's say, experiencing things. I just need to have a swig at the coffee, a cup of Joe. That's my. I'm just utilizing child labor. My kid came in and gave me a cup of tea. Beautiful. Cheers. By the way, this is happy hour. So if you're also enjoying your drink, this is the time to take a little bit more breather as such. I want to mention one thing about design. When you're taking decisions as such, I like to see cheers. Thank you, Jason. Cheers it is. The next round is on me whenever we meet in person. I think that should be pretty soon, maybe a couple of months more. So the element is, I talked about, what time is it? Oh my goodness, half an hour already there. Almost half an hour already there. But think about the connections as such, right? And what needs to be done in the world of connections too. And how you connect things. It's not just connecting the dots, it's connecting the right dots. One of the questions that I have to answer, I'm looking at the questions that came a week back, is about design is very easy to understand, right? Means anybody can say like, this is an amazing piece of performance, amazing piece of sexiness and the beauty into it. Means the automotive world, for whatever it is, has taken the blend of emotion and function to an extreme level. Very, very less companies do that. Let me hold on the thought of, I would say, the connections as such. Let me go back and try to look at the top 10. Top 10, it's already around 3 o'clock. So today's top 10 actually came through my first couple of weeks of the cultural shocks that I got. One of the greatest shock was literally the culture of guns. And I have nothing against it, nothing for it. It's very amazing to see that most of the Americans often unthinkably associate the way they express in the gun culture. By the way, I own plenty of guns. Most of them happen to be Nerf guns as such, and I'm really good at this, exceptional marksman too. But talking about the gun culture, it's pretty amazing to see, even though we might not be talking through it or not be taking it, when a third person listens to it. It happened with me first week at the Big Three, one of the Big Three that I was over there. Somebody comes in and says like, let's go, we have a town hall meeting. Like, yeah, that guy, yeah, he just shoots from the hip. What do you mean? Means literally, if you're not, I would say, immersed into the culture, just listening right now, he will just be shooting from the hip. Means in the top 10, I think we will go way beyond top 10, but simple things that we don't know, they creep into our vocabulary, not just in the US, all around the world. And you say, let's hit the bull's eye. You are shooting at something, you're hitting at something. It's a projectile weapon also, right? When we say we want to go back in the engineering world and just get down in the weeds or down in the trenches, it's all military gun kind of and culture elements coming as such too. Like one of the main thing I enjoyed was riding shotgun. Means one of my friends, this was when I was back at the automotive company, he said, hey, Jeevak, do you want to come? We have a Woodward cruise. It happens every year, not this year, I would say, where you just can jump in a car, typically an exotic car or an amazing muscle car or any unique vehicle as such, and just go up and down the street. It's an amazing cultural element as such. And he said, do you want to ride shotgun with me? I had no clue what he was saying. No clue whatsoever that it was actually 1969 convertible Mustang. It was supposed to be, at that time I had no inclination of what amazing, I would say prestigious element that was, but I won't riding a shotgun with somebody like that. So that's what my minuscule mind thought about that. But we say these things now, even I say these things now, like let's stick to our guns or don't jump the gun. Why would you say don't jump the gun? Or she's a straight shooter. Man, that's a pretty good thing, but straight shooter, what is she shooting at? Like, or the bang for the buck. I have been using that in India since a long time. He's a hot shot. Hot shot is a pretty interesting word. It's actually technically means now people who are a little bit more gregarious or a little bit more annoying or a little bit more pompous, they are called hot shots, not in a good way. Actually, hot shots was when military had cannonballs in their ships and they want to shoot the cannonball to other ships. They used to put the metal ball into a furnace to make it red hot. And they used to then shoot that hot shot into the other ship. So the other ship, which was arguably made of wood at that time, would start to burn. So it was literally a bad thing, one of the baddest thing, but now we just use it. He's a hot shot. So without literally understanding where those elements come in, right? Means I'm literally sweating bullets right now. I could say that literally I'm sweating a little bit over here. Or in strategy, we always say, let's take a shotgun approach or let's not take a shotgun approach. There are so many things. Means in every world, there are so many things. Maybe as a man and a boy or a boy and a man in that, let's say, bees and flowers thingy. Nowadays we say, hey, he's just shooting blanks. It is still in the world of gun culture. Shooting from the hip, we talked about that, dodging a bullet, or, oh man, he's a great person. Like Jason over here, he's a great person. He's an amazing caliber. Caliber, the high caliber guy, comes from the person on the Wild Wild West who had a most high caliber gun. It's everywhere. I can just go on and on. In normal vocabulary, don't shoot the messenger. Why would you think about shooting again in that particular element? Don't get in the crossfire. Let them fight over there. Again, the crossfire things. There are plenty of things coming down to the world of photography too. Means I love photography. By the way, that's one of my Soviet owls out the wall. My head is a pretty big head. It's completely blanking off a 36 by 24 gallery print over there. What was I going to tell about a camera? Right now, when you say take a snapshot actually is when you don't get a proper stance to go and aim at something and shoot. You just see a fox running and just take a snapshot at him. It's basically trying to aim at a moving animal as such. It's a hurried shot. It's not completely taken over in the right amount of elements too. But now in the world of our selfies and camera loving generation humans that we are, we always use that word snapshot without understanding the etymology or maybe the genesis of where it erupted. And I think I should stop. I can go on and on. I know it is not just the top 10. It goes beyond too. I can start to go to the other elements too. One main thing is flash in the pan. The flash in the pan doesn't come from the kitchen elements. It actually comes from the earlier guns with the muskets in where it was called the pan and the gunpowder explodes over there as such. So that is just like flash in the pan. It's not literally going to hurt anybody. Blowing your wad. That's also another one which can have now a different kind of a sexual context, but it all starts in the world of military and the gun powers as such. So so many things. Quick on the trigger, pull the trigger, or set your sights onto something. We talk about that in strategy each and every day. Let's see where we want to go. What's your sights on? Let's get that in the crosshair. Let's have clarity. Let's not go anywhere else and just not go in with guns blazing. But so that's where I think my top 10 should stop. And next time it would be top 10. It should not be top 20 as such. So that's my ode to the amazing vernacular that I'm learning each and every day. And more often, I'm learning this because since that day, 19 years ago or 18 years ago, I'm been now hyper focused and hypercritical. Like, what did you say? Why did you say that? Like, what do you mean riding the shotgun? And then you go back and go on Merriam-Webster or go on Wikipedia and try to see, okay, riding shotgun, why was it there? Why it happened? Why is it called a dashboard? It also came from over there in the world of mobility too. So somehow it helps me, and somehow I think that those are the back stories of, I think, not just as me as a designer, but most of the designers who are innately curious and who try to go and unpeel the layers to see, okay, what is the root cause? Like when we say root cause analysis, just in, I think it's an for good or bad or worse, maybe we'll have to ask our spouses to see how it feels, but we always try to go to the root of the elements and try to see what are the main fundamental movements happening on a tectonic plates rather than just looking at the surface plates as such. Another, I need to drink and hydrate myself. No more just drinking, it's hydration as such. So I was trying to, where we left was in the world of, I would say, connections and the right connections as such. And one of the questions I had last time was, Jeevak, you always are so in a good way, confident about beauty. And one of the things that you always say is beauty is where you see or where you look at, and it's everywhere. And that person obviously said, how can you explain mathematics and the beauty in it? So for me, it's like even physics, right? It's beautiful. It all depends literally on the eye on the beholder. Like when you say E is equal to mc square, it is such a most beautiful equation ever. Coming back to the world of mathematics too, it all depends on how you are trying to go and make connections, right? Mathematics is, I mean, it's full with challenges, but all depends on how you are introduced to it. And that's why going to the right design studio or having an internal design studio, which is rightly mentored by a leader, is so important. I remember my journey of mathematics, right? When I vividly remember the first few sessions that our professor told us, and his name was Abhyankar back in India. He showed, it was a mathematics class, but he used to show us big coffee table books and slideshows of Taj Mahal. That's how we started. Let's look at Taj Mahal. Just the beauty. If you have been there or not, I think the World Wide Web would let you know what Taj Mahal is, right? It's beautiful. We looked at 300 yards view, 30 yards view, zoomed in, zoomed out, the intricate lattices, the windows over there, the craftsmanship, the form and the color, everything was so nice. And eventually he zoomed into literally the windows and single piece marble angles coming together and rotors and petals. And then he showed about the different configurations of what is sine and cos and the way the angles play with each other. Before we knew, we were already immersed in the world of trigonometry and then geometry. And then he put on just a pack of matches, literally lots and lots of matches, and say, okay, that's a triangle. See, that is an equilateral triangle. Now put 3 more sticks on it. That's a tetrahedron. Before we knew, we were playing with matchsticks, one of the cheapest prototyping material ever at that time, or today too, if we still make those matchsticks as such. But you just couple of drops of glue or twines and you start building things. Suddenly from a 2D, you are into the world of 3D and tetrahedrons and all the 3D platonic objects of cubes and isodecahedrons, and eventually you build things of bridges and structures. Before even we knew how stable the structures were, literally of the trusses as such, and we knew it was the strength of materials and the theory of machines and all those courses that we had to do with. And then you start connecting things with each other, right? Means, this is literally a geodesic dome, right? Means we used to build that out of matchsticks and eventually came to know that this was by the Buckminster Fuller, and the way it was designed, the way it is used for. Would somebody connect this over there right now on the hindsight? everything is connected. And I think when we learn this, we go down these rabbit holes of mathematics or geography or metallurgy, everything connects at different level. And how you make sure you retain that, you read about that and make the proper connections there as such, right? Means now when I go now, not only now, when I was in the school, when used to go out for nature walks or things like that, used to go and look at sunflower seeds. Like you can see those amazing, beautiful petals and the formation of the seeds over there. It's all mathematics. It's Fibonacci numbers, and eventually you see the fractals and the phyllotaxy of the plants, and everything is relating to it via certain kind of an elements too. And how you look at them and come back and connect something with over here or over there. So you might look at mathematics as just algebra and trigonometry and derivations and integrations. Yeah, it sounds sinister, or sounds pretty nasty, if you use the word nasty that we have been hearing in the news so far. It is, but when you understand the context, the application of it, how it may finally change the elements and how it can be expressed itself, how it can be personified in a completely different world. How do you make use of all those? Thank you, Stephen. Biomimicry. How you get your bio inspiration and the biomimicry and learn from it, and then eventually come back into making sure what you can do for the fun of it. The same teacher even showed us slides literally of the pantheons. Steve, from where you are, those amazing Greek pantheons and the cathedrals in the Europe. Amazing beauty, amazing beauty. But then once you try to look at the golden proportions as such, thank you for that element, Steve. The golden proportions, the rule of the thirds, everything was there. It was a massive architecture, but all the things were already, I would say, thought of, and they were nicely blended in together over there. At that time, he showed us a book of Barcelona, the La Sagrada Familia Church, one of the best church ever to go from the way of when you look from the beauty. But when you go in the basement, finally, I was lucky enough to go and visit that a few years ago. You can see how it was built, right? It's all mathematics. I'm sorry, I was going away from the stage because I dropped something. Antonio Gaudi, one of the amazing person. Stephen, you are one step ahead than me. I like that. Just go to the names and look at how he built the entire church structure. Right, he literally started with simple string, and when you hang a string completely, I would say in the natural frequency, it is a curve. It's called the canary, Canary. And in his basement, you could see some of the things were burnt in a fire. But he literally had these strings, and he threw plaster of Paris (POP) over it, and it all formed into a different structure. And then he rotated the entire thing. So when you look from below, all the proportions are literally natural, but they are strong and they are beautiful. It's pure mathematics. And once you go there and enter it, you can see the aura. You literally, even though it's completely artificial, you get a feeling of walking into trees. At least I got that feeling too. It's amazing to see mathematics is literally fused everywhere. And I would say, quoting again Neil deGrasse Tyson, that astrophysics that we all know, mathematics is the language of the universe. It absolutely is. Means we are, let's say, not assuming we are animals, right? We are, let's say, a part in the biology. If you want to now again create compartments as such, we are animals, we are a part of biology. But if you zoom in a little bit more in, if you look at the cells and the enzymes and the mitochondria and all those things, it's all chemistry. So the entire biological thing is set up on the chemistry and the way they interact. But now if you zoom in more and more on those elements as such, at the end you always see molecules and atoms and electrons and photons. That's all physics. Means the laws of quantum literally flip over there in that particular world, but the entire chemistry is set in the world of physics, and the entire physics is set the way I should not say set, the way we understand the world of physics is by the way of mathematics. It's literally built on the top of each other. It's not just like that's biology and that's chemistry and that's physics and somewhere over his mathematics. You don't have to be a profound, I would say, a scientist to connect all these things. But once you have the proper grounding in the world of engineering, or let's say world of business or the world of design, and get additional multidisciplinary elements together, then you see the proper concoction happening. And that's what industrial design would be, right? For our studio as such, we are who we are because we are a multi-design studio. We have these amazing different perspectives right in the studio, and then we literally go and cross-pollinate and cross-reference those things with each other. And that's what we have to do in this world. It might be mathematics, as some people call it, and the same thing, it might be beauty, as some people will call it. I will still say anything and everything in the world happens to be beautiful, in the world of man-made objects, and also in the world of, always in the world of, I would say, natural objects too. Let's look how we're doing on time. Well, we still have a little bit more time. We can look at one more element as such. One more property, characteristics, attributes that people said that what we should always need to be embracing, especially in the times like this. Outside, it's still gloomy. It might be sunny outside, but we all know we have to still respect the social distancing. Social distancing still works, and I think we need to be cognizant about that, because we all know the curve has flattened, but that doesn't mean the area under it has changed. The deaths would still be there, sadly, but they are just spaced now in a time continuum rather than everybody, I would say, spiking up at the same time. So what would be that element that we all need to, let's say, practice right now of all the things? And I would say a single word, it would be the word of tenacity. Tenacity, I would like to actually convey a small story. Let me take you back all the way to 1938. That's way long ago. In Europe, in Hungary, there was an Hungarian army person called Karoly Takas, Karoly, Karoly. Lanya can send you the link of that name. It's difficult to pronounce a Hungarian name for me. I can barely pronounce my Indian name. So it's about Karoly Takas. And he, in 1938, was literally at the prime of his career. He was in army, but he was also the best shooting hand for a 25-meter rapid-fire pistol championships. He was so great that people said he would be the world champion in the coming Olympics. 1940 was the Olympics slated at that time, and he was preparing for that. And he was absolutely in the prime of his career as such. And the thing was, he was in the army, they were practicing their army games as such. Some freak accident happened, and a grenade blew in his right hand. His hand that he wanted to make the world's best shooting hand, a grenade blew into it, and he lost his hand. 1938. And his only goal was to become the world champion for shooting as such. He had two options in front of him. One, to accept and just live in that life of pity, or other, still pursue his goal. So he had the option of trying to live in the world of facts of no hand, or he had the option to explore the world of possibilities. He chose the latter. He was still in 1 month in hospital, but then he said he has a left hand. Let me look at what I still have. I have a left hand. Let me try to begin practicing with that. He was not a lefty. He had never written with his left hand, but he started practicing because he was tenacious in his goal, in his ambition that I want to be the best shooter, 25-meter shooter in the world. And he started practicing. 1939, Hungary had its national championships to select for the people to go into the Olympics. He came over there. All the other people, Hungarians who were, let's say, the silver medalists, the bronze medalists were there. They were happy to see him, to see, like, look at his sportsmanship. He's coming here to cheer us. And they went there to offer him condolences. He said, guys, step back. I'm not here to cheer you. I'm here to compete. And he competed. Everybody was there, was still the best people that he practiced against. They all fought or competed with their best hand. Our guy competed with his only hand. And literally, to make a long story short, he won. The 1939 Hungarian Championships, he came out as the top shooter as such. But 1940, he was waiting for the Olympics. The Olympics got cancelled, just like this year. At that time, it got cancelled because of the World War II. It was cancelled, at least for us right now. It is postponed to next year. So he waited till the next one. The next lot was 1944. The war was still on. He waited for the next one, the 1948 London Olympics. Imagine, he was at the prime of his career in 1938. You know, if you are in the world of sports, we all are, we understand sports. the deterioration happens pretty fast. He was kept practicing with not his dominant hand, with his newer hand as such. For 10 years, he kept on practicing. He was still at the top of the game. He went to the best of the world that had to offer in 1948. And at London Olympics, he got the gold with his only hand. And the only element was the tenaciousness of it. But again, as a bad advertisement or a good story, there is more. He still competed for the 1952 Helsinki competition, and he got a gold there too. 2 consecutive golds itself was a world record. All because he chose not to dwell in the world of facts, not the dealt card that was offered to him. He chose to explore the world of possibilities, opportunities. And in the world of design, it's always not problem solving. That's one element to look at. The other element that somehow people fail to forget is the element of opportunity assessment. How to find out more areas of different ecosystems clashing over each other and producing newer elements of looking at things. And that's where the tenaciousness helps, right? It always helps. It will always help. So when I hear this story or read about this, and when we talk about the tenaciousness of what we are right now, we still have electricity, we still have grocery, we still have most of the things. As long as we have the tenaciousness and the ambition to do something, it might be learning, it might be using your time to some good use. Yeah, you can still on the weekends go and binge on Netflix, no problem about that. But at least try to make a list, your hit list. Again, trying to get a military gun, I would say, metaphor as such. Make your hit list and try to go through that. In next 2 months, we can do this or this. There is some people might say that, hey, you don't have to conquer the world, but right now you have been dealt with an 3-4 extra months. Just look at from that particular perspective. Everybody is given some extra time. Is how we are going to make use of it. It might be for anything. I think I talked about it last time too. You decide what you want to do and make sure you do it, because there is no other excuse. The only excuse that we always heard since the time eternity was, I don't have time. I don't have time. Oh, I'm going to lose some weight. I don't have time. Oh, I want to go and read some books. I don't have time. Oh, I want to go and run 10 miles. I would have, but I don't have time. Now you have time. Means the only thing is, if you come out of this COVID thing without attaining your goals and ambitions and being tenacious at it, it will just prove that you never wanted to do it. As simple as that. But that all comes down to how you want to chart out your own kind of constellations and chart out, let's say, your journey as you go forward. So that was the story of Carolee. I do not know. Maybe somebody, if there is some Hungarian on the chat, let me know how to pronounce Carolee Takas, the name as such. I tried to find for it. I could not. There are a couple of other things. Maybe we have a little bit more time. As such, we talked about, I showed the soccer ball. I could have talked about a soccer analogy, but I want to talk about the Americana sports. I'm trying to add at least one sports story or analogy in this tonight's show. Baseball, completely different sport than cricket. Not that I know anything about cricket as such, but this is a small paraphrase I'm going to let you know from a very good friend of mine, I would say mentor, Galen White. He wrote, Galen White, maybe Lania, you can just send a link to his book if you can. He wrote an amazing book on baseball. And the element about that was, means again, baseball is an amazing game, and data and everything comes pretty strong. But the way he told me about the story of this was how things like this are connected. So we're talking about the connections right now. Still, we have that kind of an underlined, undefined theme going in this talk at least. The main thing was this was invented at a time when, think about the movie, The High Points, Danny Day-Lewis movie, where the Irishman lived at one point in New York, at one area in New York. Let's say Italians lived over here, the Greeks, Stefan's countrymen lived over there. It was segregated as it was. It was fighting. They were trying to defend their holds as such. One thing that brought eventually people together was baseball. Everybody were in different pockets. They were still speaking their own language. They had their own mannerisms. There was a little bit overlap, but not that much. But eventually, after a hard days of work, at that time, it was literally a hard days of work. And the man of the house would come home, and there is a kid. The only bonding that they had with the kid was over the weekend, when they used to just throw ball at each other. And that's where, including the dad and the son, predominantly, not the daughter, I would say, they started bonding. And then as they started to play it, then the sons dragged them to the actual leagues and the small games over there. And that's where on the bleachers, all the dads started to come together as such to see now, okay, this is what I bring in, what you bring in, and how we can try to actually getting the purity of the Americana, as you say, means everybody, it's a land of immigrants and opportunity, but how do come together? Baseball actually has a pretty important role. I think eventually it changes in the areas too. I think in some areas, boxing was a pretty big thing as such too. But this is a pretty amazing sport. But the things we have to think about what happens behind it. Nobody thinks about elements like this when you design or a system or things like that, but good things eventually happen, and the society and the culture. So when we look about a product and the industry and the category, eventually they're molded by, not molded, surrounded by the society and the culture. All those things diffuse with each other, and then they become an important part of what you stand for. So baseball is just really amazing. I'm still learning the rules of that sport. So can you design this beforehand? It might be a literally impossible. It is a side effect, a very good side effect. But sometimes I think I had one more question about the elements of innovation. And last time I think mentioned about the 5 different domains of innovation, and industrial design is a very good structured, a robust way of innovation too. And then the question was, how do you explain this? Most of you might be knowing this. This is a fidget spinner that took the world by storm 2-3 years ago. How do you design a viral element like this? I do not have the answer, so I'm just being honest here. The question was really good. Like, was it designed to go viral? Did they start with something like that? I think as far as I know and read about it, no, it did not. It just clicked. Tipping points happen. I personally do not know how and why it happened, but if you see the way it went viral in a couple of weeks, and people started to order them as completely airplane lifts from China to back over here. This one actually I bought for $22. Eventually now you get them as a swag if you go to conferences as such. Actually I have my IDSA one right over there too. I should have grabbed that. But things like this as a design means, if you go and build a scorecard of viability, feasibility, desirability, usefulness, usability, ergonomics, this in our scorecard would have failed. I should not say miserably, but it would not be in the top 5 or top 3. So some elements, some reasons like this, I think I do not have the answer. As we go around and we're trying to find, there are so many experts on the group. If anybody has an inkling or a theory of how certain elements just click, like means we know Lego. Right now, you want to talk about Lego, I can talk about, I seriously, knowing me and knowing Lego, I can talk about for a couple of hours, and we can systematically deconstruct the amazing thought process that goes in these bricks. It is still a handful of polymer, right? Means a handful of polymer is right everywhere. I don't know to grab anything else and compare any other brand with Lego right now. That will be not right. But it is still, I can explain this very well. I think I cannot explain this very well. By the way, in the back, the blue jays and the hummingbird and the robin over here, the actual European robin, they're all Lego pieces too. As such. So Lego can be, this one I do not have. I think I cannot answer that question. Awesome. So what should we talk about? Talk about more. I would say we will come back to try to summarize what we talked today about design as such. Design has to be, we can try to think about making sure you integrate and infuse design as much as you can, and you cannot remove it. When you say you have to blend in together, it literally has to be an integrative part of it, because without this, the other has to be incomplete. And giving an example of that from a normal plain world would be like, if you talk about boxing, let's say Rocky, the movie Rocky. Hopefully almost all of us over here have seen or heard about the Rocky movie. You cannot take the movie out of the song, or you cannot take the song out of the movie. When you either start the jingle, you imagine yourself to go up and down those steps and literally raise your hands, or the other way around. That is an amazing fit happening for that product. Movie is a product too, and then they make amazing millions and billions also too. But we have to aim for that kind of a blending between the hardware part, the software part, and the servicitization part, which actually is now going to be more and more effective as we go and come out from this COVID world as such. So something like that, how to make sure you blend those things as an unity. It has to be a singularity as such. We have 5 minutes more. I have a parting kind of I should not say monologue, but a parting kind of thought about what next and how we should be braced for what's happening. I think we still have to be cognizant of the reality. I think in the US, end of this month, the unemployment is going to reach 20%. It is scary, scary, scary. The thing is, and I'm going to make a pretty big statement, and it will go on record for sure. See, economies will always struggle, but business models keep on evolving. It has happened during the 2001 terrorist attack, during the dot-com burst, digital-com burst, the real estate burst. Plenty of those things always happen. So I'm not saying whatever happening right now is good, no. But right now also we can see there are certain trajectories coming out of it, which will be completely ripe for businesses to start pivoting and making essential elements as such too. So it all depends on how you're going to look at it. It means right now, we know the restaurant business is down, but the delivery business of the same restaurants is skyrocketing. And that was already happening 2 months ago. Also, we knew car sales were going down, but the Uber, Ola, and the Lyft was always going up. We always know and see those things happening, right? Means it's difficult not to escape those elements. Even tuition. I would say college tuition means the college dropouts in the college would be going down, but more and more people were getting educated via online courses. Those big movements were already happening. Means shopping on an actual trader was less, but the online shopping was more, and now it's as high as it can be. In a similar vein, job seekers, as I said about unemployment, job seekers will be reducing, but now the job creators will be increasing. Means right now in just these 8 weeks, we ourselves as a studio, means we are working with big companies, we work with medium companies, we work with a lot of startups. And now we are literally seeing a lot of startup movement, because very good, very intelligent people who always had some idea in their mind are getting laid off, are on furlough, are getting salary cuts. Right now is the time to invest in design. Means we are working with some of them, and we can talk more if you are interested, or some of your friends are interested in that. As we always said, now it is more to understand design is not an insurance, design is an investment. And this is the time when we want to start about understanding, okay, what are the needs, the problems, the wants that you want to solve with. And if you have something that you can bring the knowledge over there. So we would see more job creators, and then sadly some people might have lost their jobs, but if they again be tenacious itself and be confident in delivering their competencies and making sure their ambition is still there, and you can fulfill that ambition. I think studios, not just like us, but there are other studios too who would help you in making sure it's not just product led or not just service led, but you have to make sure how the business can be successful too, right? So that would be the point that I think I would start to almost end the discussion over here. Believe and start to invest in design. If you're a big company, it's good. You already are doing that. You have your own internal studio. If this is the time to pivot, if you're trying to understand how your core competencies can still be used for other essential industries. When it is sad to see, it is really sad. I think I mentioned that, I think in the last VDC, right now we are just buying or doing essential business, and still the economy is struggling. Essential, and it is struggling. So there was plenty, means that doesn't mean to say there was only frivolous and pompous things happening. No, there are other things that we do it for our self-esteem, our let's say actualization in the Maslow's hierarchy, and that also creates employment, or creates, I would say, a pride in whatever people are doing. But again, coming back to the essential elements of things are going to be what we know. This is not going to be forgotten pretty soon. It is going to be a part and parcel, at least of some industries, how we are going to understand them and then release them. So I think my time is almost up over here. Thank you once again for being in the element. We have, I think Lanea is sending the link right now in the chat too. At the end of this month, we have another VDC 3, the virtual design conversations. And we just have 4 amazing, it's a half day, 12 to 4. And we have 4 speakers from different sections of the industry. We have John Deere, we have Notre Dame, we have Bridgestone, and we have Lazy Boy. 4 amazing brands, 4 amazing experts in those areas, going to talk about their passionate elements as such too, similar to what they formed in life, what are they understanding, how they want to go and extend what we are learning in the last so many years, not to erase that, and how to overlap what we are learning right now by being at home and contemplating what needs to be done. So hopefully we would see you there. I would just be a moderator. We'll have 4 different speaker heads over there, and all of them are handpicked. All of them are really amazing speakers, and I think you will have a lot to learn from them. And again, till that time, cheers. Thank you for everything, and drop me or Lane an email if we can help you anything in the world of design, engineering, strategy, or research, literally anything. Thank you. Enjoy your coffee or your beverage, and see you at the end of this month for the virtual design conversations. Thank you.